Hello everyone, and welcome to part 2 of the End SARA application process video. If you watched part 1 of our application video, which can also be found in the resources section of our website, then you understand the application timeline and the eligibility requirements. In this video, however, we are going to walk you through the specific sections of the application. If you haven't watched part 1, I suggest you do that just to familiarize yourself further with the process, because we'll kind of just be jumping into the application here. So before we start, I wanted to reintroduce myself. My name is Sheridan Miller, and I'm NEBI's State Policy Engagement Coordinator. My colleague Rachel Stakoviak and I comprise NEBI's SARA team, and together we are the Northeast Regional Compact that works with NC SARA and institutions to best implement the SARA agreement. If you have any questions throughout the course of this video or any other videos, feel free to reach out to either of us. Our contact information can be found here at the end of this presentation or on NEBI's website. So before we dive right into the application, we're just going to stop here and we're going to do a quick knowledge check about some basic things you might want to know before you start the application itself. So the first question is, in order to participate in the SARA agreement, you must be prepared to communicate with your state portal entity, SPE, regularly about things like the renewal process, fees, and student complaints. So I'll give you a second. You can pause this video, take some time, reread the question, think about it a little more, and I will give you the answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And that is true. So in order to participate in the SARA agreement, you are agreeing to keep a channel of communication open between yourself and your state portal entity, or your SPE, and you'll find that this is as helpful for you as an institution as it is for your SPE, because they are going to be there throughout this whole process to answer any questions that might come up through the course of your SARA membership. So moving right along, number 2. The question is, as an institution, you will only have to pay the recurring SARA membership fee and no other fees to retain SARA membership. So again, I'll give you some time. You can pause the video now. Otherwise, I will give you an answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And this is false. So while it is true that all SARA participating institutions do need to pay an annual SARA membership fee of $2,000 for schools with a full-time enrollment of under 2,500 students, $4,000 for any enrollments of 2,500 to 9,999 full-time enrolled students, and $6,000 for schools with 10,000 students or more. There are some states that need to pay extra fees there are some institutions in certain states that need to pay extra SARA fees to their states to keep up offices like the Office of the SPE and extra fees that come up due to the SARA agreement. So to find the specific payments, you can check the NC SARA website under information for institutions and then payment. Just to give you a quick rundown of New England institutions, there are extra fees, and again, you can check out what these extra fees are on NC SARA's website, but there will be extra fees on top of the annually recurring SARA membership fee in Connecticut, not in Maine. There will be in Massachusetts, there will be in New Hampshire, there will be in New Jersey, there will be in New York, there will be in Rhode Island, and there is no extra fee in Vermont. So to get a little bit more clarity on this, if you so choose, again, go to the NC SARA website under information for institutions and then payment. Okay, so the last question here before we dive into the application is, if I am a member of SARA, I can provide distance education to students in California without seeking separate authorization. So again, pause the video. Look at, I guess this is a statement more than a question. Look at the statement, decide whether you think it is true or false, and I'll give you the answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So this is false. California is the last of the 50 states in the United States that has not joined the SARA agreement. So if you want to offer online distance education to students in California, you do have to seek separate authorization. So thank you for participating in this knowledge check, and now let's look at the application. So here's the first page of the SARA application for institutional participation. The first thing you'll have to do is fill out your institution name and check off which regional compact you are a member of. If you're an institution located in Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, or Vermont, you would indicate that your regional compact is us here at the New England Board of Higher Education, or NEBI. If you've stumbled across this video from a different region, first of all, welcome. We're happy to have you, but you would indicate your own separate regional affiliation. In order for this application to be processed, we need your institution's Chief Executive Officer or Chief Academic Officer to initial each prompt. Upon completion of this exercise, your state portal entity, which again we've talked about, but they're a group of people in your state's education department, will double check that all the information you've provided is correct, and then they will sign off on your application to continue processing. These applications are reviewed thoroughly, so please make sure you are completing these honestly and to the best of your knowledge. Okay, so the first 3 questions here speak to SARA eligibility and were reviewed in depth in our previously mentioned video. So a lot of these questions are affirmational statements that don't need a whole lot of follow-up, but there are some that do need some extra evidence that you will provide. But let's start with question number 1. The main campus or central administrative unit is located in a SARA member state and is authorized to operate in that state. Only distance education content offered under the oversight authority of a SARA member state is eligible to be offered under SARA. And so again, this is an affirmational statement. You'll check that your institution meets this requirement, that your main campus is located in a SARA member state. And again, if you are a part of the NEBI region, if you're from Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, or Vermont, this applies to you. So you'll check that off. Second, the institution is a U.S. degree-granting institution that is accredited by an accrediting agency recognized by the U.S. Secretary of Education and whose scope of authority, as specified by the department, includes distance education. And so again, this is an affirmational statement. You'll check whether this applies to you. If yes, you can continue on your application. If not, unfortunately, you are not eligible to be a part of the SARA agreement. Question 3, for non-public institutions, so if you're a public institution, don't pay attention to this question, but for non-public institutions, your institution's most recent financial responsibility index score from the U.S. Department of Education is 1.5 or above. Or if the score is between 1 and 1.49, your state portal entity can affirm that documentation has been provided to demonstrate financial stability sufficient to justify institutional participation in SARA. If an institution is owned by a corporate parent, the composite score of its parent must meet these agreements. And again, public institutions leave this blank. So this question pertains to your financial responsibility composite score. If your institution has a score between 1.5 and 3, then you're eligible to join SARA. If your FRCS score is between 1 and 1.49, then you are eligible for provisional status if your state portal deems you a good candidate. So those are all pretty straightforward. Okay, going right along. Number 4. The institution agrees to abide by the interregional guidelines for the evaluation of distance education and the policies of the SARA manual. Again, relatively straightforward. If you want to access either of these materials, you can find them on the SARA section of our website. And I would highly suggest that you go through and kind of sift through the institutional components of each of these documents, especially the SARA manual. The SARA manual is kind of the SARA Bible. It has all of our policies that we use and that your institution will be tied up in should you become a member of the SARA agreement. So highly suggest you read through the institutional sections of the SARA manual. Again, that can be found on NC SARA's website as well as our NEBI website in the SARA section. Okay, number 5. Your institution agrees to be responsible for the actions of any third-party providers used by the institution to operate under SARA. So this basically means that you accept responsibility for resolving any complaint that might spring out of the actions from any third party instructing or interacting with SARA enrolled students. We'll get to this in a second, but it's very important that you have clear and concise complaint reporting materials on your website so that SARA enrolled students know exactly who to contact should they have a complaint. Okay, number 6. The institution agrees to notify its SARA state portal entity of any negative changes to its accreditation status. Again, affirmational statement, relatively straightforward. It maintains the importance of updating your state portal entity whose contact information can be found on NC SARA's website, or any changes to your accreditation status. You should also be informing them of things like changes to your FRCS scores, any new auditing, etc. Okay, 7. The institution agrees to provide data necessary to monitor SARA activities, including annual reporting of distance education enrollments and out-of-state learning placements disaggregated by state in accordance with NC SARA policies. This is important because institutional data reporting helps both us and the national folks at NC SARA to measure the utilization and success of SARA, and it also helps us to learn how we can continue to evolve as an organization to best serve students and institutions like yourself. 8. The institution agrees to work with its home state's SARA portal entity, or SPE, to resolve any complaints arising from its students and SARA states, and to abide by decisions of that entity regarding resolution of such complaints. So this question reaffirms your institutional commitment to working with your SPE to resolve any complaints from out-of-state students engaged in SARA activities. By agreeing to this question, you are also agreeing to upholding and respecting the final decision made by your state portal entity. The institution will supply a link to their complaint system on the 4th page of the application. I'll refer to the asterisk at the bottom of this page. So as you can see, the asterisk there, it is the institution's initial responsibility to investigate and resolve a complaint prior to referring the student to the state under SARA procedures. Both grade and student conduct appeals are not covered under SARA. It should be clear to the student in your complaint policy where they can turn for a resolution. So right now we're just going to take a pause because this is a really important facet of the application, and we're going to look at an example from a Massachusetts state portal entity, or sorry, not a Massachusetts state portal entity, a Massachusetts institution participating in SARA. So it is vital that your SARA enrolled students can find where your complaint policies lie. So they should be able to just go onto your website, go up to the search bar here and Google SARA complaints, and this should come up. So again, this is UMass Amherst, a SARA member in Massachusetts, and right here they have their state authorization and complaints section of their website. So they have information about programs related to professional licensure and certification. This is also important to have on your website. And then here they have a specific link pertaining to complaints under State Authorization Reciprocity Agreement, or SARA. And so then you can go down to academic grievance policies. You can find the complaint form here. Okay, so that is just a quick little example of a very good complaint policy. And if you join SARA, your complaint policies should be transparent to your students. Okay, 9. The institution agrees to apply for SARA participation to its home state's portal entity over the signature of the institution's chief executive officer or chief academic officer. This is a rather affirmational and straightforward question. All right, this is a long question. So the institution, number 10, your institution agrees to provide notifications to students related to professional licensure. Any institution approved to participate in SARA that offers courses or programs designed to lead to professional licensure or certification, or advertised as leading to licensure, must satisfy all federal requirements for disclosures regarding such professional licensure programs under 34 CFR 66843. For SARA purposes, these requirements will also apply to non-Title IV institutions. For SARA purposes, institutions that are unable, after all reasonable efforts to determine whether a program will meet state professional licensure requirements, shall provide the student or applicant with current contact information for any applicable licensing boards and advise the student or applicant to determine whether the program meets requirements for licensure in the state where the student is located. An email dedicated solely to this purpose and sent to the student's best known email address meets this requirement. The institution should use other additional means to notify the student if needed. So that's a mouthful. Let's break that down a little bit. Again, when we were looking at UMass Amherst's website and we saw their professional licensure link, that's going to be important to have on your website as well, again, for full transparency and student protection. So this statement that your CAO or your CEO will affirm pertains to the ever-tricky question of professional licensure. Basically, if you as an institution are advertising that any of your programs or courses lead to professional licensure, let's say nursing, mental health counseling, teaching, etc., then you are required to disclose how this professional licensure is awarded in a state-by-state context. So, say you're an institution from Connecticut. You're offering distance education to a student in Montana who is studying in your nursing program. But, this is important, if your program is only valid in Connecticut, then you are required to alert your student to the stipulation and are required to alert that Montana student to the board they must appeal to for their NCLEX or nursing licensure in Montana, as an example. So again, tricky question. I hope this clarified it a little bit. If it didn't, again, email us or turn to our SARA Bible, the SARA Manual, which can be found on our website. Okay, moving right along. Okay. And then here are some stipulations around this particular question. Okay. 11. The institution agrees that in cases where the institution cannot fully deliver the instruction for which a student has contracted, it will provide a reasonable alternative for delivering the instruction or reasonable financial compensation for the education the student did not receive. If, for whatever reason, you cannot, as an institution, fulfill a program or a promise to a student, then you will have to provide an alternate program or some sort of financial compensation as a means of student consumer protection. Basically, if you face an unforeseen closure or a circumstance in which you can't provide quality education to your SARA students anymore, this regulation makes sure that your institution has a teach-out plan in place. It also wants to reaffirm that you have a system of credit transfer and transcript transfer for the students affected. So you'll have to provide the documentation that you have this teach-out plan as well as credit transfer and transcript transfer in place in the extra documents that you will provide in this application. 12. The institution agrees to pay its home state any state fees for SARA participation required by the home state for administering SARA. As you'll remember, if you watched the first video, or if you remember our knowledge break a couple slides ago, there is one unified SARA fee that institutions have to pay depending solely on the size of their institution, and we went through those fees earlier. These fees, I just want to add, these SARA fees, these annual SARA fees, don't change by state or by type of institution, whether you're a nonprofit, for-profit, or public. But in our grand tradition of federalism, some states will have an additional fee for SARA participation, and we already spoke to this earlier in our knowledge break. Again, if you're interested in seeing exactly what those fees are for Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New York, New Jersey, and Rhode Island, then go to the NC SARA website under Institutional Participation and Payment. Okay, 13. We're almost there. The institution agrees to pay its annual SARA participation fee to the National Council for SARA, or NC SARA. Very straightforward. You need to pay your annual renewal fee. 14, the institution agrees to abide by conditions of provisional approval if necessary. Again, there are many reasons a school can be put on provisional status, including an FRCS score between 1 and 1.49, a high volume of student complaints, audit concerns, etc. So by initialing this question, you are agreeing to be put on provisional status if your state portal entity deems this status necessary. This is relatively rare, but it does happen for the protection of both the institution and the student. Okay, so now we'll do another quick knowledge check. So now that you've read or you've listened through the specific stipulations to the SARA application, we'll do a quick knowledge check. So the first statement, it is important and necessary to have clear and visible SARA complaint policies on your institution's website to demonstrate compliance with the agreement. So I'll give you a second. If you feel the need, pause this video. Otherwise, we'll go through it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is true. So I reiterated this quite a bit, but it is really of the utmost importance that you have clear and visible SARA complaint policies on your institution's website, or that your students, your SARA enrolled students, know where to find these. Okay. Second, you do not have an obligation to share SARA enrollment data with NC SARA. So I'll give you a second. You can pause this video, but otherwise I will give you the answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is false. So you do have an obligation to share SARA enrollment data with NC SARA. Again, this was one of the stipulations of the application, and it helps NC SARA make sure that they're serving their students and you as an institution to the best of their ability. And it also just helps for basic data collection. Okay, 3. Once I apply and I am accepted to the SARA agreement, I do not have to worry about my membership ever again. So you can pause it. Otherwise, I'll give you the answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is false. So once you're accepted as an institution into the SARA agreement, first of all, congratulations. We're happy to have you. It's a great agreement and it will make your life a whole lot easier as an institution. But there is an annual renewal process where you'll have to reaffirm these statements, that all the statements that we just went over on the SARA application are still correct, and you'll have to pay a renewal fee to keep your membership. So that's just something, once you're accepted, to keep on the back burner and just in the back of your mind, to remember that you do have to renew your membership annually. Okay, and then the end of this application, so we already went through all of the specific steps and the specific questions and statements that your CAO or your CEO will have to affirm. So the end of the application is just, filling out some basic information, your institution's name, mailing address, OPEID number, institutional accrediting agency. You can read this at your leisure, but things like the name of your principal SARA contact, so that's the person in your institution who will be the principal contact talking to us at NEBI and talking to your state portal entity. Fill out some basic information about that person, and then the secondary SARA contact, demonstrate what kind of institution you are, and report your financial composite score, and other such information that is needed. Okay, and then you're going to just fill out additional campus information, whether you have other campus locations that you want to be included in the SARA application. So if you have one main institution and then branch campuses as well, you'll add in the branch campuses here. And then again, you'll fill out the SARA contact at each campus location. So this only is important for institutions that have one or more campuses. It's pretty straightforward. And then, last but not least, you will type the name of the institutional signatory officer as well. So again, that's your CEO or your CAO. They'll sign, they'll put the date they signed, and that is it. So that was a lot that I just threw at you in 15 or so minutes. So if you want additional information or you're left with any burning questions, again, I'm going to refer you to the SARA manual, our SARA resources on NEBI's website, or feel free to reach out to myself, Sheridan Miller, or my colleague Rachel Stakoviak directly at the emails that we have provided here. Our contact information is also on NEBI's website. You can also reach out to your state portal entity, which you can find by Googling your Office of Higher Education. I also want to just invite you to feel free to continue clicking around our website for any additional resources that you might need. And last but not least, I am happy that you're here. I'm happy that you're considering institutional membership in SARA, and we look forward to working with you in the future.